Warm greetings, friends. I'm Drakpa. A quick reflection on the 6 realms. First, we activate our bodhicitta, wisdom and compassion, our genuine love, care, appreciation for all beings, and experiencing the illusory nature of all beings, including ourselves. Recite the 7-line prayer once. Om Udin Udin Udan Sam Pema Gazada Bola Yazan Yugid Numni Pema Juni Sudra Kadu Kadoma Boko Jiji Jitsu WG Jinjilam Jesus O Guru Pema Sede Hom. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May all beings never be separated from supreme happiness, which is without suffering. May all beings remain in boundless equanimity, free from both attachment to close ones and rejection of others. It's really just a quick contemplation on the 6 realms of all beings. So the Buddha, Shakyamuni, and Guru Rinpoche mentioned so many times in sutras and tantras, there are these 6 realms of beings: hell beings, preta beings, animals, humans, warring gods, and gods of various kinds. So there's these 6 realms of beings. And so kind of more actively, lately for me, this has been a little more kind of like a relevant topic in my mind. So why? Why is 6 realms? Why does it make a difference if we believe in the 6 realms of beings or not? And for me, it fundamentally comes down to a kind of a question of compassion, of care. It's not about the reality. Is it really real that there are these 6 classes of beings, including beings I can't see, can't experience? They're invisible. They have different kinds of bodies, different kinds of languages. They're in some other corner of a universe, like further than the light cone of kind of where we've reached with our observable tech. Like, it's not so much a question of what's really real, but how much do I care? So if there are such beings, hell beings that are experiencing unrelenting torment, pretas that are constantly unsatisfied, that are just like in excruciating kind of agony of feeling like at a loss. Animals that are kind of tormented by like always being either predator or prey, hunter or hunted. Humans who just doubt their goodness and doubt the power of their goodness, cause, condition, and effect. Warring gods are constantly kind of always kind of overpowered by the jealousy of looking for something bigger and better. Or warring, or like these other kinds of gods, form gods and formless gods of various kinds, just kind of constantly basically doped up by like ongoing luxurious experience due to the power of their minds and the kind of ability for them to be concentrated and kind of staying one-pointedly with a certain way of being, a certain kind of mind, a certain kind of embodiment and worlds that they're with. So these 6 classes of beings, not so much a question about what's really real, but like how much do I care if there are such beings experiencing these different kinds of suffering? Like, do I want them to be free of suffering and its causes? Do I want them to have happiness and the causes of happiness? And for aspiring bodhisattvas, the answer is a resounding yes. Like, yes, of all kinds of beings, all the kinds of beings, the animals, the microbes, the big ones. If there's aliens in other places, if there's humans of any kind, shape, size, age, class, gender, race, anything, any kind of invisible being, like as long as we have this fixation of me and I'm always the most important thing, and I have this kind of confusion about how wonderful I am, and so I'm constantly looking outside to try to control my environment or my world so that I feel better. Like if we're such beings, a wandering sentient being like me, then like does our compassion extend to reach such beings? So this is not so much a question of metaphysical reality as opposed to altruism, kind-heartedness, open-mindedness, this kind of hypothetical deductive, like what if willingness to kind of just be like, regardless of what I know, what I can confirm for myself, if there is such a being of any kind and it's experiencing suffering, I want them to be free of all suffering and the causes of suffering. And so this kind of openness of heart and openness of mind, this is so key in all Buddhist components. Theravada, Sutra Mahayana, Tantra Mahayana, and Vajrayana, and it only becomes increasingly important, both the open-heartedness and open-mindedness, as well as the kind of, willingness to kind of really commit oneself to like loving beings this widely, this kind of closely and intimately, and like this urgency to really be of benefit to them, to really help bring about happiness, and then of course like to help support whatever conditions are for the awakening of beings, so they see their goodness, their essential kind of open, vast, limitless, boundless quality of Buddha nature. So yeah, not so much, I'm not personally so much fascinated about like different anomalous experience and things that kind of are outside of my box. This kind of subtlety, either really subtle relative truth reality, or also like pure relative truth kind of experienced through Bhumi Bodhisattvas or enlightened cognition. This, direct, non-conceptual, valid cognition of bodhisattvas who are like always abiding in emptiness realization. I'm not so much kind of like really fascinated or fixated on like all the subtleties of how deep we can go into experiencing relational reality, or like the vividness of like how it is that if I was, God on the Bhumis, like how would my enlightened cognition experience forms and sounds, deity and mantra? That's only really relevant in terms of like, does that knowledge help me serve beings better? Does that knowledge help me like really have like a clear understanding of what's the better way to engage and be with another, a being that I care about? That's the whole point. So this open-heartedness, open-mindedness is so key in Buddhism. And as long as I ask beings to fit inside my box, my sense-making, my meaning-making, what methodologies work for me, then it's always going to be kind of have this self-centered ring, this self-centeredness of like beings have to meet me where I'm at. And of course, like I have to like show up according to the boundaries and the limitations of kind of what I know and how I am. That's just being practical. It's like being actually like healthy, like caring for like what I'm available for, but also a willingness and open-heartedness and open-mindedness to actually grow that, open that, release that, relax that, so that I can be more available for more wide range of different kinds of embodiment, different kinds of knowing, different kinds of being with, because there's so many beings. Even amongst humans, there's such a unique variation amongst all of us. And for animals, of course. And so can I skillfully tune in to where someone else is? It's much more a question of that as opposed to metaphysical reality. Because once we get into kind of what's really real, questions of metaphysical realism, all of a sudden we're not in a Buddhist frame of mind or view. Because the Buddha clearly taught there is no such thing as a fundamental absolute ground of reality that's relative. There is no final relative bedrock in space or in time. There's not an irreducible particle of space, time, or mind. There is no ground that's some fixed way of being. So there is no something that is really real, truly existent, singular, independent, and permanent. The Buddha very strongly refuted this at all layers of his teaching and all the vehicle systems called dependent arising. Everything is thoroughly relational. It's just these internesting, infinite networks of cause, condition, and effect. And if we try to look at any one piece as if it's a final unit, some definitive part or particle or set, then if we look further upon closer investigation, the boundaries actually dissolve and release into even more nuance, more complexity. There is no such thing as a really real, a truly metaphysically existent, ontologically set being, either a kind of being or a way of being. So anytime I try to make someone fit into my box, basically I'm assuming a view of metaphysical realism. My box is really real. My assumptions are really real, whether I know of them or not, whether they're conscious to me or not. And most of these belief structures I have aren't conscious to me. Every moment I show up with a view, an experience of what is the world I'm in with other beings and myself. world, self, and other. That's called a view. And part of the skillfulness of, especially Sutra and Tantra Vajrayana Buddhism is we intentionally turn on a view. And that's often kind of simply called motivation, but it also can be called a worldview, a view, a tawa. We intentionally turn on a motivation and a view. And like, this is why emphasizing bodhicitta, heart, mind of enlightenment, this union of wisdom and compassion is so key, because aspirationally, at least, we can aspire to be in that way of being, to have like this deep, urgent, powerful interest and yearning to become enlightened so that I can actually show up skillfully exactly for every single being, to be the exact supportive conditions for that being's own goodness, their own Buddha nature to fully shine on so they become awakened. And so this kind of like ability to not fixate on what's real as opposed to like what is skillfully serving here, what serves, that's the deeper impulse. And that can just be turned on with an aspiration, which is why it's so important to emphasize bodhicitta both as an aspiration. It's a motivation we can easily conceptually kind of locate and try to turn on, and even as in a conceptual poise, like a way of holding on to concepts. Those positive concepts or positive habits or merit can lead me to release or relax into non-conceptual direct valid cognition of being in this open, flexible, interactive, inactive way called emptiness, empty of being fixated, locked, tensely wrapped around this locked sense of a really real me and a really real you in a really real world. Instead, it allows for more free flow of like actual living, dynamic, shifting patterns of like what's happening in real time now. And so that undoes this, bit by bit, step by step habits of metaphysical realism, assuming there's any kind of a real entity. And so this view, this bodhicitta, union of wisdom and compassion, or emptiness and appearance, there's a lot of different ways to talk about this, but the emptiness part is there's no such thing as a fixed frozen relational ground. It's empty of that. And as a result of being empty of that, it free flows as dynamic fullness of these infinite qualities of boundless love, compassion, and wisdom. This is called Buddha nature or bodhicitta. And so this would naturally want to extend and include all beings and all ways of being. So this open-heartedness and open-mindedness, specifically the belief in 6 realms, like the thing is, it is a belief. And I know oftentimes in Buddhism it's talked about as like, especially in the more outer teachings, these core foundational teachings of the Buddha, we need to verify everything for ourselves, and it's so critically important. But a lot of what is happening, like in the wider spectrum of cause, condition, and effect, or of like interrelational being, of interdependence, we can't directly perceive. It's either too subtle or it's too pure. It's too subtle for my kind of like certain sense doors and what I'm normalized or habituated to, or it's just too pure, meaning like I'm blocked by my confused habits of locking into certain modes of fixation. And so there's just, I can't see my cognition doesn't operate in a natural enough way yet, like a Bhumi Bodhisattva, where I literally, it doesn't register these different kinds of being and ways of interacting and methods that would otherwise show up if I wasn't so immature, if I wasn't so non-available or not ready to like experience the full power of my Buddha nature, of my wisdom and compassion, of my bodhicitta. So kind of this holding certain beliefs, these positive concepts, helps poise us for our hearts and minds to like naturally relax more into their fullness, into the vastness and profoundness of their way of being, when it's actually groundness, which means infinitely internested with other beings in other worlds at all times and places. Interdependence or dependent arising. So holding a belief or turning on even an aspirational conceptual belief like bodhicitta on, enlightenment for all beings or bust, as long as it takes forever. And then this also includes like time is illusory, space is illusory, beings are illusory, I'm illusory. It's all dreamlike. It's all like a dream. Then this openness and freshness of perspective really brings this wisdom and compassion together in like an elegant balance. The wisdom is it's dreamlike, so I don't need to be so tense about it. But the compassion is like, and it's intimately interacting, so I need to really show up with exacting accuracy to the interdependent, dreamlike experiences of beings and emotions and memories and textures and tastes that are constantly dissolving as they arise. So the key point here is view makes a difference. Belief makes a difference. And of course, we start with positive concepts or beliefs. And some of them help us leap into the faith of going way beyond what we're available for due to like our constriction or normalized constriction of belief. So certain helpful, healthy, positive, meritorious beliefs or positive energy, whatever we call it, allows us to kind of relax into more of the fullness of our non-conceptual or post-conceptual, much larger ways of being natural, of being more fully human. And that this is like called uncontrived bodhicitta, or kind of like uncategorized bodhicitta, the naturalness of just how our heart mind is when wisdom and compassion just free flow through it as webs of interdependent being. But to hold a belief temporarily, even aspirationally, as we then engage with our body and our speech in activities with others, it's really powerful to hold a certain view. Instead of just like whatever view I happen to be assuming right now, I'll assume that and whittle away through like seeing the emptiness or open nature of each experience I have. Instead, we turn on a certain view, which is bodhicitta, and from this much larger, more vast and profound conceptual holding pattern, it actually helps us kind of like be with more of reality happening more closely according to how it's happening, the way that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas talk about actually being with it. So holding certain beliefs conceptually help us like poise us to like relax into a much greater fullness of being as described by the Buddha in certain sutras and tantras, for example. And this kind of way of being is way outside of any typical box that we would see on mainstream legacy media news. It's just so much more profound and vast that we're ready for. And it includes empirical rational science. It includes, interrelational like feelings and stories and like collective sharing and meaning making. And it includes all kinds of states of mind and these all kinds of vast, diverse kind of typology systems, ways of dancing, ways of doing art, ways of kind of showing up and categorizing. Like it includes this vast spectrum of different relational patternings, texturings, enfoldings, enactments. That's what such a view like bodhicitta does. It leans into that dynamic multiplicity, but always with this unity of like there is no fixed groundless relational nature, and that's why the fullness of being, of love, compassion, and wisdom can shine through in all cases at all times. And the wish to do that, to actually be living bodhicitta as someone who is courageously oriented towards the mutual win-win benefit, the awakening, the liberation of every single being. That's called the way of the bodhisattva. And this really includes very vast space and very vast time and very vast being. And so without at least conceptually poising ourselves to very big ways of thinking, feeling, knowing, becoming, and working methods, we're naturally assuming a pretty contrived small box, a small me and a small you and a small world. And while we can do a lot of good with a small me and a small you and a small world, there's all kinds of virtue and goodness and merit we can do within those boxes. We can also intentionally use our intelligence and our vast compassion to play in much bigger boxes a lot sooner than that, by holding or aspiring to be of great benefit and serve the liberation and awakening of every single being we come in contact with, not because we need to save them, but because their nature already is the way it is, and we're just showing up with them with love and compassion, actual deep interest and deep like genuine honor, and we're like enjoying their resplendent beauty and its multifold talents. And then that's enjoyable to enjoy others in that way, and we mutually shine on kind of like delightful interest, and that's just called love. That's called compassion. It's called kindness. It's called delight. And it becomes this beautiful sacred world that we share and co-create together, to be in that mode. And then in that more relaxed, delighting, mutually uplifting mode, these certain constrictive habits that lock us away from that kind of close ourselves, our ways of seeing that don't make that so available or so self-known, those reduce their energy. They start kind of like releasing themselves, and natural bodhicitta like shines through our temporary conceptual holdings of bodhicitta into just natural, resplendent, powerful, non-conceptual, post-conceptual wisdom and compassion, or just called Buddha nature. without being held by any category or any system like 6 realms or any kind of sense of fixed anything. And so releasing that fixed anything actually helps us embody in a beautiful way like fluid everything. But it actually does it like according to what's helpful in this situation. It's not just everything everywhere all at once. Boom, we're like drown in the flood of multiplicity. It's very exacting because it's allowing itself to be multifold. But it only works with what is helpful in this situation right now. So, and then that sense of being fluid and open and responsive, that aperture of what I can be that way with kind of increases as I go through like my ability to be with open fluidity with more and more patterns of relationality. So that's called Bodhisattva Bhumis, where I'm kind of my own mind and heart are becoming more and more inclusive, more and more whole and complete, more open. Is there a final edge to that? No. It's beyond any kind of quantifiable limit. And is there a final fixed aspect of any part of it? No. It's all free of that. But to show up with utter precision, to like learn to be exactly in resonant response, attuned resonant response with the other beings. And there's more and more beings simultaneously, more and more worlds simultaneously, more and more languages simultaneously, more and more shapes and sizes and all these simultaneously. That is called the like way of a bodhisattva. And it gets super galactic, super cosmic, and super minute and super intimate, and always self-refreshing. Be with something, let go. Be with it carefully, let go. With care and concern and love, and let go. And that is kind of the way of the bodhisattva. These views we hold make a big difference. Intentionally turning on an aspirational bodhicitta makes a big difference, even though it is just a concept at the beginning for beginning baby bodhisattvas like myself. But such a concept, like, do the 6 realms exist? Are beings of the 6 realms existent? Yes, they're kind of ways of being mentally, ways of feeling energetically, but also, like, are there belief structures that hold them as ways of being in bodies in world with others, like the belief structure of being a human being on planet Earth with other humans and animals? That's all belief structure stuff. But in Sutra Mahayana teaching, the Buddha clearly taught mind-only school or Yogacara, Chittamatra, like this is all our awareness. The only thing we ever can directly confirm is we're aware. I'm aware of hearing something. I'm aware of tasting something. I'm aware of feeling something. I'm aware of remembering something. The only thing we ever have a direct cognition of is the awareness of an object. It's not directly the object. My mind is directly of its awareness of the object. And because of this mind-only school approach confirms the only thing that ever actually is happening is awareness. And awareness shapes itself into certain patterned habits, certain forms. And there's habit forms based on just past conceptual holdings. And then there's wisdom displays based on how awareness or wisdom mind is when it's not habituated or locked into any mode. It's actually resonantly kind of displaying with other minds that are locked and other wisdom minds that are open. So it's Buddhas interacting with Buddhas, or it's sentient being awareness interacting with sentient being awareness, or it's a wisdom awareness interacting with non-wisdom awareness. Whatever the combination of patterns is, it's awareness interacting with awareness. And so belief really makes a difference because certain beliefs help directly open up or shut down our wisdom and compassion. So thus, why all the emphasis on 6 realms? Why is that important? Without like a vast field of conceptual holding, like how big can my love be? How big and how deep or more profound can my wisdom, is my wisdom really allowing itself to be? So these are just a few considerations to reflect on kind of, the truth of 6 realms. Are they only psychological states? Is it all just inside my mind? Like kind of more Western psychological approaches would kind of like trend towards nowadays. It's in my mind, it's in my body, it's in our interactions, it's in our world shaping, it's all in fields of interactive awareness. Like Buddha will play any of these games, any of these conceptual holding patterns, as long as it shows up skillfully to help serve other beings for their awakening and their immediate happiness with however that's available. So quick few reflections. And just quickly dedicate the merit. By this merit may all obtain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara may I free all beings. The precious Bodhicitta, and those without it may it be generated, and those who have it may it never diminish, but always continue increasing. Deity, mantra, and dharmakaya are the nature of appearance, sound, and awareness, the pervasive kaya and wisdom display of the Buddhas. May practitioners of the profound and secret great perfection remain inseparable from the innermost one-taste awareness of wisdom mind. Thanks, friends. All love.